I thank Ambassador Liu Jianmin and the Secretary General for Economic and Social Affairs for his message. Excellencies, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Under-Secretary General, we are now approaching the end of the 2021 high-level meeting on the Development Cooperation Forum. I hope it would mark the beginning of a new and collective action for systemic change to build back better. We have had participation which has been inclusive with multi-stakeholder representation. It has been collaborative. And we agree with the conclusion of the Under-Secretary General about the need to strengthen the United Nations' role in development cooperation. The ideas and solutions identified will, I hope, lead to a new paradigm of international development cooperation and stronger and more effective collaboration in the decade of action for the SDGs. Let me recall a few highlights of our discussions. Strengthening development cooperation in the COVID-19 context means helping developing countries to address the pandemic, to reduce risk, and to build resilience. And this approach of addressing challenges and preventing crises should become a part of the new DNA of development cooperation. Every region will have to be a participant in ending this pandemic. And every region, state, and community has experiences and knowledge that it can share to mutual benefit. As we have heard, the experiences of the least developed countries, landlocked developing countries, and small island developing states in confronting past crises, such as Ebola and major tropical diseases, has helped to improve preparedness and the quality of development cooperation. Given the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic and comparing it to the end of a war, as our Mexican colleague has done, a substantial opportunity exists to scale up key actions to reduce the risk of future events, and not only epidemics, but disasters, and the vulnerable situation of certain developing countries. Some aspects of effective development cooperation, of course, are tried and tested, and they should continue to inform the new paradigm for effective development cooperation. These include strengthening national capacities and systems, fulfilling the distinctive role of ODA and concessional finance, increasing solidarity and retrofitting partnerships to the current risk landscape, and putting the furthest behind first at the center of our efforts. As we have heard just now from Mr. Jose Ocampo, the importance of financial support for the developing countries in the midst of this pandemic and in its aftermath is critical. ODA levels must be revived. The SDRs created should be utilized to best effect, and new and unallocated SDRs should be provided for development support. A priority in reaching the most vulnerable is strengthening sustainable infrastructure, including health and social protection systems, which are the first lines of defense in the face of risks and for ensuring long-term sustainable development. Increasingly, resilient and sustainable infrastructure requires well-coordinated investments and capacity building in developing countries, and the development of a pipeline of investment-grade projects, an inclusive platform under the auspices of the United Nations could provide the vehicle to promote these essential objectives. South-South cooperation and triangular cooperation has been prominent in crisis recovery from this pandemic. It has brought together public health agencies, including to set the policy context for the implementation of public health activities and to prevent avoidable illnesses and death from COVID-19. We need to generate greater international commitment so that all countries can access medicines, vaccines, and modern technologies as global public goods. To do this, we will require sustainable and inclusive financing mechanisms. Finally, we must do a better job of sharing and further creating knowledge of new, emerging, and modern technologies. The importance of digital technologies and the creation of the digital economies has been consistently underlined in our discussions. No country, community, or company can end the health crisis, stop climate change, or eliminate inequalities on its own. Development cooperation in the decade of action should enable stronger coherence and support to countries for nationally owned solutions and to work in close partnership with its people. Excellencies, all your invaluable contributions here will inform the high-level political forum to be held in July. The summary of key messages and recommendations will also input into other relevant intergovernmental processes on financing for development. The LDC 5 conference in 2022 and the climate conference that is coming in November. Importantly, I hope that the expert discussions and messages captured in the summary will inspire and support your work and partnerships in the future. I thank you all for your time and for your important and invaluable contributions that have made this year's Development Cooperation Forum a success. Thanks also to the hardworking teams here at the UN headquarters who supported the meeting, including the translators, UN DESA, DGACM, and other key actors in this Development Cooperation Forum. I thank you all. Have a pleasant weekend. This meeting is adjourned.